Iren has just broken its most relevant levels of support, completely nullifying the high probability setup we were tracking for this stock that would have allowed it to extend to new all-time highs within a wave 3. So you could say in a sense that this setup has been invalidated. But has it? No, this setup is still alive. For it to have been invalidated, it would have needed to break below the beginning of the entire wave 1 to the upside. Yeah? A full invalidation implies that the wave 2 breaks below the beginning of the wave 1, making it no longer a wave 2. This has not happened yet, and from where I'm standing right now, I'm looking at a 3-wave correction, exactly as anticipated within a wave 2, where within the wave C, I see 5 waves down. So by the end of this video, you will understand the path that this stock needs to stay on to still be able to deliver on our initial expectations and the levels of resistance that it needs to break to indicate this idea being a high probability. Welcome to the trade setup. So Iren has built this initial 5-wave move to the upside. A couple of ways we could have been tracking it really. We could have allowed the wave 1 to have topped in this initial push. Doesn't really matter, the levels of support have been broken in either case. We can't really go beyond that. And typically, when the levels of support get broken, there is this inclination that it is significantly more likely the entire setup will fail. That, yes, this decline will push below the beginning of the wave 1. And the risk is still there. I'm not denying the risk. But I'm also looking at the opportunity to be had here, because I already see from the top 3 waves down. So I could start looking for the reversal, especially since within this pattern, I see 5 waves down. Yeah, the move down would be generally considered complete. And unless it breaks below the current lows around $32, the primary expectation would have to be that it can still form the reversal. And technically it could break below $32 and still work out, but the likelihood of that happening, especially now that it has seen a bit of a reversal, would definitely have an even weaker outlook. Now, with that said, tracking the internal structure within this move down, not of much use in my opinion, but what I would rather do is look for the levels of resistance that this stock needs to break to prevent building a 5-wave move to the downside, because while I can track 3 waves down, nothing is preventing this pattern to building a 4th and a 5th and have a 5-wave move down from this point of view. So in this case, it needs to break above the 50% retracement of the wave 3. Yes, I have to track an impulse here, and quite conveniently for the bears here, the 50% retracement is perfectly in line with the beginning of the wave 5, right? This stock has pushed a couple of times into this region, got rejected quite substantially each time, and it is a region that is quite possibly going to be rather difficult to get through. So what are the options for this correction, for this orange wave 4? Well, I am looking for a 3-wave pattern primarily. What I do know is that the wave 4 cannot be a 5-wave pattern. Sure, it can be a triangle, it can be a number of different corrections really, but it cannot be a 5-wave move to the upside. If we see such a structure, that is rather a confirmation that we will see continuation higher, at least within, let's say, a larger correction, maybe an A, B, C pattern here. Then if we are to consider the correction that has formed within this as a wave 2, it is rather likely the case that the wave 4 has not topped yet, that if it is to already be in formation, we will see further extensions even higher. Why am I saying that? Well, it is because the proportions of the wave 2 and the proportions of the wave 4 would generally be expected to match, sometimes tending to have the wave 4 extend a little bit beyond that. But now that we have the levels of resistance that it needs to break, I would like to look for the target that we can still track for a successful breakout. And this would primarily assume that a bottom is in for the white wave 2. I would generally expect it to be in, and to be honest, if it sees a reset, it is most likely going to fail. But the current ideal target is around $100, the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. Of course, depending on where the wave 1 topped, this might need a slight readjustment, but nothing too significant, yeah? See, in this case, we are looking at $93. Not a major difference. We are overall looking for a quite healthy extension, a pretty decent move that would generate pretty decent returns, right? Now, going into the internal structure, I'm quite pleased with this. I see some interesting potential here. So typically, you would be looking at this pattern and consider that we only have 3 waves up. And you'd be right, we only have 3 waves up, there's no way around this. How you would count it might differ, however, but what I prefer to consider here is that this would have been the wave 1 up, this would have been the wave 1 up, this would have been the wave 2 that bottomed here, yeah, an overshoot and an A, B, C pattern within the wave 2, a running flat, then this could be the wave 3. What does this mean? It means that we are looking potentially for a correction within a wave 4, where we expect similar proportions with what we've had in this as a wave 2. Yeah, similar proportion. This has taken from about the beginning of the trading day on the 17th of July all the way to the closing of the trading day. So about an entire day is how long this correction took. This is what I would generally expect to happen within this as a wave 4, yeah? Build a sharp decline, a sharp correction. Since we already have a sideways correction in place here, we expect a sharp correction. The rule of alternation would suggest that quite heavily. And we would like to see the levels of support for the wave 2 between $38.20 down to $36.40 to be reached. We are looking at 3 waves to form within this structure, and once this is done, we would expect one additional extension higher within the yellow wave 5, also to be a 5-wave pattern since we are tracking an impulse here. Well, this would imply we would have an initial 5-wave move to the upside, right? If it manages to survive, breaking the levels of support here would have potentially quite bearish implications, potentially quite direct extensions to lower prices. But if it manages to build this structure, we would expect a 3-wave correction into a follow-up internal area of support for wave 2, or potentially just a wave B, and then an extension within at least another 5-wave move to the upside. Yes, this could be just wave C, completing this orange wave 4, but it could be the case that it would be building the wave 3 of a larger 5-wave pattern within a larger wave 1, part of the white wave 3 that we expect to take us towards the $100 region. We cannot know at this point in time how this will play out, but this would be the general expectation. And it doesn't stop here. So I have shared with you a clean path where we go straight forward, building a 5-wave move up within a potential wave 1, but that is not always what ends up happening. It's not too rarely the case that the wave 3 becomes an extended wave, especially if the rest of the market manages to recover. It's not too rarely the case that this would have been just a wave 1, part of the yellow wave 3. We are now looking at a wave 2 correction, and we will see a 3rd, 4th, and a 5th to complete a much more extended wave 3. Why am I telling you this? Well, to put it into perspective that it is possible to see a much more aggressive move, to understand that it's not a guarantee that we will see that wave 4 correction form in the span of a day, the same as its wave 2 correction, and it is possible to see extensions higher much earlier. Now, here's the tricky part. In the case of an extension for this yellow wave 3, the levels of support would need to allow a deeper retracement. But I will leave you with this information as a guideline. Within an extended structure, especially an extended wave 3, typically, the wave 2 doesn't end up being a very deep retracement. It will usually end up reaching the 38.2% retracement, maybe even the 50% retracement. But most often, if it doesn't manage to see the reversal into a breakout from this level, and the 50% retracement coincides with the last level of support for the wave 4, a failure would become much more likely of an outcome than a successful breakout. Sometimes they do push into the 61.8% retracement, but very rarely do such patterns, a double 1-2 setup, even more so the case if it's a triple 1-2 setup, but very rarely even within a double 1-2 setup, will the secondary wave 2 reach the 78.6% retracement. And I want to be clear that this is not a rule, but I have noticed this to generally be the case. Now, we do know that below the 50% retracement, the likelihood of a wave 5 to still work out would have been extremely diminished. And sure, we could still be looking for a wave 3, but even the likelihood of that has decreased significantly at that point. So for the sake of this reversal, we want to see the 50% retracement hold. Ideally, $36.40 is the last level we are primarily watching. So for now, this is about what we can track for this stock given the currently available data. And if you want even more from me, even more updates, even more opportunities, you can check out the Patreon. But for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. And if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.